Let me ask you something. When was the last time that you sat still? No phone, no laptop, and no to-do list open, and you just gave yourself time to think. Not planning, not sitting with your notebook open, not strategizing with a pen and paper, just thought. Now, if you can't remember, or if just the thought of that makes you uncomfortable, then I want to talk to you today because there's a lie that many founders are running on, and it sounds like this. If my calendar isn't full, I'm not doing enough. That's not founder thinking. It's not CEO thinking. That's an employee cosplaying as a CEO. And today I want to unpack why time freedom, like real, unstructured, protected time, isn't a luxury you earn later on after you build your empire. It's the thing that allows you to scale in the first place. So let's get into it. Now, I want to challenge you with something today. Not your strategy, not your time management, but your relationship with time itself. Here's what I see constantly with the founders I work with. They left the job, or maybe they never had the job because they wanted time freedom. They wanted money freedom. They wanted the freedom to build something that is solely theirs that no one can take away. And then what do? They build themselves a job, a harder one, with a worse boss, a relentless boss, because now the boss is your own inner critic, and that boss never clocks out. You can't get away from them. And I know this firsthand because this is the biggest mistake I made when I started my first business as a personal trainer and a sports nutritionist. I built myself a job, and the more hours that I worked, the more productive I thought I was being. And if my schedule wasn't full, if every day wasn't full with clients or with tasks to do, then I felt like I wasn't doing enough. And this is what I mean by the employee mentality. It's the belief that your worth is measured by your hours logged and boxes checked on the to-do list. That if you're not producing, you're failing. And that stillness equals laziness. And it makes sense where it comes from because most of us were trained by school, by early jobs that value visible output, where if you were just standing around, how quickly would your manager come over and say, hey, what are you doing? Get back to work. Or if you took a longer break, that was just not acceptable. So it was about showing up, doing the task, get the gold star, and repeat that daily. But a founder's job is fundamentally different. A founder's job is not to execute more tasks. It's to see what most people can't see yet. It's to make the decisions that nobody else is positioned to make, and you cannot do that work from inside a to-do list. Ideation, vision, pattern recognition, the intuitive leap that becomes your next product or your next pivot. None of that happens on demand between back-to-back Zoom calls and emails and tasks you need to get done. It happens in space. It happens in moments of boredom. It happens in the shower, on a walk, without listening to a podcast, unless it's this one. If it's this one, I'll give you that. But really, you need space, you need time, and you need space. But let's talk about what time freedom actually means, because I want to get really clear here. Often people hear time freedom and they think it means doing less, being undisciplined, or just waiting around for inspiration to strike. But that's not it. Time freedom means having unscheduled, unproductive time built into your business on purpose and protected the same way that you would protect a client call or a launch deadline. It's the difference between a calendar that's always full and a calendar that is intentional. Full means every hour is accounted for. You have tasks to get done. You know exactly what you're doing every single day. Intentional means hours are accounted for by nothing, deliberately, because that's where our best thinking lives. Now, we've talked a lot on this show about the unconscious mind, and that's why it matters in this exact context. Your unconscious mind is always working. It's connecting dots, it's processing inputs, it's solving problems. But it can only hand you the answers when your conscious mind steps out of the way. When your head is buried in a pile of tasks, your conscious mind is running the show. And it's a much worse problem solver than your unconscious mind. It's linear, it's reactive, and it can't see the whole picture. It's looking at your business through this very narrow viewpoint. Space is what allows your unconscious mind to surface, to bring forward new ideas, innovation, to solve problems. So when a founder tells me, I don't have time to take a break, I don't have time for a day off, what I actually hear is I have not given my unconscious mind the runway to give me answers that I'm looking for. And so often business owners get trapped in this thinking of like, oh, if I have this problem, I need to put my head down. I need to solve this problem. I need to do my way through it. I need to figure out how to make my business work. I need to figure out how to increase my revenue. So I need to work my way through it. What you actually need is to take a step back and relax so that your unconscious mind, which has been making connections all the way through this, can start bringing forth those ideas. And now you can hear it. Now you can start to see the path forward. But why does this feel so uncomfortable? Because every time I have this talk with clients, they tell me, Teri, that's scary. I don't know if I can do this. So if you're sitting there listening to this and you're thinking, okay, but I can't just block off empty time. I have a business to run. I hear you. I run 2 businesses. So let's name the discomfort. Let's make it real. Let's face the discomfort head on. For a lot of us, unstructured time triggers guilt. It can even trigger anxiety. Like something bad is going to happen if you're not actively holding the wheel. Like if I'm not actively driving the bus, I'm going to steer into traffic, but that's not going to happen. It's just an old program. Maybe from your school days, maybe something you learned from your parents, maybe from your first job experience. Something in you got wired at an earlier age. Maybe your parents equated rest with being lazy. Maybe the first boss you ever worked for, saw slowing down as being unproductive. And those thoughts are still running in the background, telling you that if you're not visibly busy, if you're not actively working on something, then you're not safe. And when you're self-employed, there's so many danger zones. There's so many fears underlying of like, what if I don't do this and I lose my business? What if I don't make enough money? What if? And all these what ifs start to add up, and we think that the way through them is to do more tasks. That is not the way through. This is the real work. And it's not just about blocking time on your calendar. That's the easy part. The real work is reprogramming the belief that says that your value is tied to your output. Because until that shifts, you'll block time and you will fill it anyway. You'll open the laptop to just check one more thing. You're just going to answer one more email. You know what I'm talking about. You all know exactly what I'm talking about. In fact, I was working with a client the other day who said to me, if I free up time on my calendar, what will I do with that time? And I said, whatever you want. And they said, well, but what will I actually do? Like, I'm already getting everything done in the time that I have. If I free up more time, what will I do in that time? Whatever you want. This is the time freedom that we all got into business looking for and then somehow trapped ourselves into just another job. I know that's what I did. When I was in personal training, I was training for 12, 14 hours a day. I would have a chunk of clients in the morning, and then I'd have a couple-hour break in the afternoon, and then I would train clients in the evening and teach boot camps. And in that time and space in the afternoon, I would be creating programs for clients. I'd be doing my marketing. I'd get my own workout in, but it was still busy work. And I was doing that 5, 6 days a week, and sometimes slipping in a couple clients on the 7th day because, well, they need their appointment and I don't have any other time for them this week, so I'll fit them in on Sunday morning. I made myself a job and I was working for a tyrant. I was the boss, and I was an awful boss to myself. No wonder I burnt out. No wonder I found myself sitting in my doctor's office with a long list of symptoms, not knowing what to do until eventually she told me, "You're burnt out and you can't do this anymore. You need to stop or you're going to end up in the hospital." So this is about working differently, like a founder, like a CEO. It doesn't mean that there aren't tasks you have to do. It doesn't mean that there aren't things that need to be done in your business, but let's contextualize it to when it's appropriate and stop creating so much busy work that's actually taking away from your ultimate productivity, which is what's going to lead you to new ideas, innovations, and being able to see the big picture of your business. Because when you are stuck in the minor details, when you're in the minutia of your day, when you're just going task after task, checking things off your list, and then finding more things to do, you're not able to see the big picture. And when you are a founder, when you are a CEO of your company, you need to have the 30,000-foot view. You need that eagle's eye so that you can see where you're going, what's going to get you there, what is the next problem you're going to solve with your new product. How are you going to get to your goals? That's what's important. So let's make some practical shifts in thinking. I want to make this really real for you. So here are a few shifts that I have coached founders into making. So the first one is protect ideation time like it's a client. If a client wouldn't get bumped for a low priority task, then neither should your thinking time. If you need to, put it in the calendar, schedule it, name it, protect it. Because think about it, would you reschedule a client so that you could answer more emails? Or so that you could work on updating the back end of your business so that you could set up a new funnel? Would you cancel a client, a paying client for that? No. So you're going to do the same with your ideation time. The second shift, separate the doer from the visionary. You have both inside of you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a business. And they need different conditions. The doer needs the structure and the lists. The visionary needs quiet. The visionary needs permission to just wander and think. I remember many years ago, I had a coach who saw a post that I made on Facebook. And the post was, I was sitting on my front porch. I love my front porch. And I was sitting there and I took a selfie of me sitting there. And I was like, I posted something about how this was the perfect time or perfect space to just daydream. And this coach messaged me and said, I don't think that's a good look for a coach to talk about just daydreaming. You look like you're wasting time. It makes you look lazy and unproductive. And I remember feeling so ashamed, so embarrassed that I would post that because I thought I was posting something really great. And my coach came down on me pretty hard and said, that's not a good look for a coach. I would remove that. And I removed the post. And I felt so embarrassed that now my coach knows that I was just sitting on my porch, like daydreaming, looking at the trees, watching the birds fly around, enjoying my flowers in the garden, and drinking my tea and doing nothing. But now I know, looking back, that was terrible advice from him. That was absolute garbage advice. That he should have encouraged it and said, hey, you know what? Good for you. So most founders only ever build systems for the doer, and then they wonder why they stopped having new ideas. They wonder why they feel stuck and why the business is no longer growing, because there is no space for the business to grow. Not only do you need time and space, your business needs time and space to grow. So the third one is notice when busy is a hiding place. Sometimes we fill the calendar, not because the business needs a full calendar, but because stillness might force us to start asking a bigger question. Is this still the right direction? Am I actually happy? Am I avoiding something? Do I still feel aligned with this business? Busy can be a very seductive form of avoidance. So sit with that. Ask yourself, when you're tempted to get really busy, ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What questions am I avoiding answering right now? Sit in the discomfort. We've created such a world where we avoid discomfort, where it's seen as a bad thing if you have a bad feeling or you feel uncomfortable. And that's really to our detriment because you can't grow without discomfort. I had that conversation with another client the other day. We were talking about just sitting in the discomfort, allowing yourself to be challenged, allowing it to be uncomfortable, and being okay with it being uncomfortable. Because whenever you are on the threshold of what we call in NLP, we call it your gray zone. Some people call it the comfort zone. Whenever you're on the threshold of that gray zone and you're leaning into it, it is so uncomfortable. And every part of you is going to want to go back to what was safe before, to what you knew before. But that's in the past. It's not here anymore. And the only way through that discomfort is to go forward, to lean into it. And just like, I don't know if you've ever done this, but I did this before when I was a kid, where you'd blow up a balloon and you'd blow it up so big that eventually it would burst. And right before the balloon would burst, there'd be this maximum point of tension. And you could feel it. You could feel the tension, and then it would pop. It would blow. And that's where you are when you're pushing into the threshold of that gray zone. There's going to be this point of maximum tension, and it is so uncomfortable. But the moment it bursts and you break through, you find yourself on the other side. And instantly you have a new gray zone. Instantly, as soon as you get through it, there is a moment of relief, and you find yourself comfortable again that, okay, this is the new reality. This has become the new norm, but you can't get to that next level if you don't allow yourself to go through the discomfort. So trust the discomfort is temporary. That's number 4. Trust that it is temporary. And the first few times you protect empty space, it's going to feel wrong. You might even feel guilty about it. That's not a reason to stop. That's just the old programming resurfacing because it's losing its grip. That's the old you trying to pull you back into what's comfortable and familiar, because remember, your unconscious mind just wants to keep you safe, and what's familiar is safe, but what's familiar is not going to grow you to the next level. We don't grow through what's familiar. Okay, here's what I want you to walk away with from this episode today. You did not start this business to build yourself a more demanding job than what you left in your corporate life. You started it to build something that you could see. And that vision does not come from your to-do list. It comes from the space around the to-do list. Time freedom is not the reward for having a successful business. It's the requirement to build one that lasts. And man, I wish that I knew that 20 years ago when I started my first business. I really wish that I understood, well, not 20 years yet. I'm aging myself, almost 20 years ago. But I wish I knew that. I wish I understood that. I wish I didn't have to burn out in order to learn this lesson. And I've had to relearn it in this business too, because I've found myself playing the same games, the same traps, falling into that doing. And please don't misunderstand me here. There are things that you do need to do. There are tasks that need to get done. But the ultimate goal should not be finding more time to do more tasks. The goal is not to fill more space and time with to-do lists. The goal is to create space and time so that you can innovate, so that you can be the visionary, so that you can grow this company, and it can't happen without space. So this week, I want you to do one thing. I want you to block out 60 minutes with nothing in it. No task, no agenda, no TV binging, no podcasts, no reading, just space. Just sit with yourself. Allow your mind to wander. Maybe you go for a walk without being plugged into anything. Just go for a walk in nature, or go find a park to sit in and just let your mind take you somewhere. Or maybe you have a front porch that you can just sit on and allow yourself to just daydream. And that first 60 minutes might feel very long and it might feel awkward, and you might be thinking, what am I going to do? What should I be doing? There's so many things I should be doing. But just give yourself 60 minutes and notice what happens. Notice what ideas start to come to you. Notice what shows up. Now, if this episode landed with you today, I want you to send it to one other founder who's stuck doing and needs permission to just think. Someone else who's caught on the hamster wheel, going and going and going and not stopping. Someone else who feels uncomfortable taking a break. Someone else who feels stuck, that their business just isn't growing, and it's probably stuck because there's no space to grow. Think of it as like the goldfish. The goldfish will only grow to the size that its environment can hold. So you are the goldfish in the bowl. And the smaller the bowl, the more tasks you're doing and the more busy work you're doing, the smaller and tighter your bowl. And so the goldfish can't grow. But you give yourself more space and a bigger bowl, and then an aquarium, and then a pond, and that goldfish can grow and grow and grow. So send it to one other person who needs to hear this just like you. And final thought, a founder's job is not to fill every hour. It's to see what others can't see. And you can't see what others can't see if you don't give yourself time to do that. So thanks for joining me here today. I will be back again next week with another episode of Success in Mind. Until then, take care of yourselves, my friends, and take some time to do nothing. Bye for now, friends.